add any value by coming in the session. So thank you so much for that. Starting off from my introduction, I'm the founder and CEO of BosonQ Psi. It's a quantum software startup which is specializing into simulation and more particularly engineering simulations. My background is aerospace engineering. In aerospace, I think so. There's somebody unmuted.
Just 1 second, I'll just try to.
I guess we can mute the speaker.
Yeah, I think I muted him. So yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, my background is aerospace engineering, and I come from the specialization of computational sciences, more particularly computational fluid dynamics, which is something that I'm really passionate about, and also high performance computing. That is the two areas of my focus that I did in my grad school, and I started off in some parts in undergrad, but carried on to my grad school. So how I came up with this, along with my co-founders, was back in my grad school. There are two instances that really I like to talk about. One is I was working on this massive problem of computational fluid dynamics, which was understanding the airflow behind the tail of an aircraft, and that was being solved in one of the largest supercomputers at that time in the national lab. About 250,000 cores all running parallelly, and it took me about 6 months to solve that one problem. And it doesn't help in the cases because I was still solving just one part of an aircraft. And there is this study which came, I think, so in 2019 from experts from Stanford, MIT, and elsewhere, where they mentioned that full aircraft simulation would not be possible until 2070, given that the current trend in the supercomputing power increases. So me and Ruth, who's my co-founder, we go back in from like undergrad. So we, even back then, we didn't agree to this whole situation. First of all, we cannot take it, like that, because we really want, we are so crazy that we actually have the dream of solving Navier-Stokes equation at one point of time, which for all of you, if you don't know, it's a fluid dynamic equation, which is a bilinear problem. It doesn't have a closed form solution. It's a partial differential equation. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, the second instance that happened was the supercomputing in my cluster at my university, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in upstate New York. That's where I did my grad school. So that the supercomputer got decommissioned and a new supercomputer was put up, which was 95% GPU capability. But all the codes that I've been developing and working on became obsolete. It was all Fortran, multi-CPU, OpenMPI, and things like that. So that led to, again, frustration and not agreeing to the situation. So I started to rewrite the codes for CPU, GPU applications, you can say, of form. I got supported by Oak Ridge National Lab and NVIDIA, with some of the programs that happened, and later on few others joined in that, and I was able to successfully port the whole code to a CPU GPU. But what I got as a result outcome of that is just 2 to 3x performance improvement. That's really nothing. I'm not going to achieve the dream of solving the full aircraft simulation. And the primary reason for that is we were taking existing codes and putting to new architecture, and that again is something that will not work. It's same thing as saying that, okay, I have an Android app, can I put into iOS? It won't just work. So that's the time when I sat down. I already was looking into quantum computing, and I did not stumble upon it, but I was more again interested from quantum fluid domain, which led to knowing about super fluidic and all of these things, which becomes the basis of quantum computers. And that's how I got into that field. And I said that, let's rewrite the code from scratch, if that's what it means. But if we go the GPU route, just the GPU route, somebody will beat us in the game, because it's a very intelligent world out there. So that's where we wanted to put an extra mile and brought in quantum computing, put the hypothesis, worked on it for a couple of, I would say 3 to 4 months before we decided that, okay, let's set up the shop, let's set up BosonQ Psi. So me, Ruth, and another co-founder, Josh, who comes from the startup and the business finance background, came on board, and together of us, we started, and the journey has been just amazing, and I'm happy to talk about it. But that's my background, Sanjay, and that's the founding story of BosonQ Psi.
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting because a lot of people I know who jumped into quantum computer was having some issues. Like a lot of people jumped into it because they have a certain problem that a classical computer cannot solve.
Mhm.
So, and it's clearly mentioned like it's a very good idea like you guys are doing.
Thank you.
So regarding this ask anything section, so there are two ways. Like either people can ask on the chat, or either people can directly unmute yourself and ask questions. So I think first question is there, and that Abdullah is asking, how does the size of problem affect the time and memory requirement of a simulation in HPC? And how did you estimate this requirement in CFD simulations?
Okay, that's a good question. So, not just the size of the problem is important, but also the type of the problem is important. Meaning, if I have a matrix which is very well formed, or is not ill-conditioned, it's a much simpler problem to solve because I can map it to parallel using OpenMPI and things like that very well. And that's what we see. A lot of the CFD application that we see are finite volume, because the matrices that form and the other systems that form that you actually compute is very well posed problem, I would say. Whereas finite element, which is the method that I come from the background, is is a mathematically more robust method, but people usually do not, like, usually speaking, they have not been using that, because it creates problems, or like problems as in matrices and the systems which are ill posed or ill conditioned, which are much difficult to then map it onto an HPC. So yes, the size of the problem does matter, and you can scale it up. Now the scaling is not uh, as simple to explain, because you just don't parallelize between cores. You also parallelize between GPUs that lie in. So each GPU core and then each CPU core, and how it maps, and the things like that. And how can we estimate the requirement in CFD simulations is, number one, which model are you using? So there are low fidelity model, mid fidelity, and high fidelity. We ideally would like to go towards high fidelity, which is DNS, but industry doesn't accept that because it's just so time consuming. The problem that I mentioned to you is in that realm. So number one, the model. Then you have the mesh size. Mesh size is what dictates how big of a problem there is. And the third, which is more important, I would say, is also your system. If you have a very difficult system to solve, you require much bigger HPC. Whereas, let's say, to give an example of what a difficult system is, let's say the airflow behind the tail of an aircraft. That example is a difficult system. Whereas if I do a nice fluid simulation behind a cylinder, in different, like, low speed, it's a much easier problem. But if I increase the speed of that, then again it becomes a difficult problem. So all of these things manipulate, and that's how you can know how big of a problem you need. Does that answer the question, Abdullah?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Maybe Amit has another question. He has
Mhm.
raised his hand. So maybe.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
Amit, you're audible. Hi.
Yeah, hi Abhishek. I'm the software professional with 10 years of experience in full stack development.
Mhm.
But from last 1 year, I'm interested in quantum computing, and that's why I'm trying to learn as much as possible. I went through multiple courses. I went through some of the certification organized by Omanium organization last year.
Mhm.
And then couple of resources here and there I'm going. But when I see the future, or maybe when I see where I can fit into this industry, I always get confused because I don't have that answer. Like, where software developer who already they're into IT from long, or maybe starting, right? So where they can fit into quantum, because I believe as of today, I think more of the researchers, scientists, they are into quantum, but just wanted to check with you how we can fit, because my keen interest in the quantum computing, and that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, thank you. With fantastic point. Thank you for asking that question. Actually, I really want to break this myth. Quantum is not a field of science. Quantum is now an ecosystem and is going to be a very big ecosystem. What ecosystem actually means, Amit, and for all of you, is there are a lot of different variety of skills that are needed. We very well confused because quantum computing is so like challenging to understand, quantum mechanics and all those kind of things. No, even to say, like scientists do their work, like they develop, let's say, qubits. The engineers make quantum computers. The then you have the middleware where you require a different skill. Then you have, let's say, software people where you make quantum software, and then you have application people like us who come in and translate that to end user. End user is somebody who's using it. Then the thing doesn't stop there. Then you also need business people, because quantum has a very different business model than many different you can say things that are out there. Generative AI, it could be big data or AI, whatever that could. So different business, different fire, like everything is so different that you can translate your skills that you have been doing into quantum and be part of that ecosystem to that effect that even marketing person need to know some of the basics, and they do the learning, but they find their own niche then. And these are the kind of people we have been working with. So I really encourage the community here to not restrict yourself because you're not able to understand the very depth of linear algebra, let's say. There's tons of opportunity, and I will tell you one thing which not a lot of people will tell you, and Sanjay can also attest to that. I've been sitting with a lot of CEOs of quantum companies, from Peter Chapman, from IonQ, to other folks, from D-Wave, Mr. Allen, and many others. A lot of them are our partners. And these people are facing challenges to fill positions. And I'm not even kidding. You might not see it, but I will tell you the reality. And I've been doing a lot of efforts in US here where I can map talent which is coming from India, Asia Pacific, Africa, a lot of other places, Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, to even South America, to how these companies can fill their position, because there's tons of players out there who require different types of skill set. Other day I saw somebody who was background in VLSI working here as a quantum middleware person, because they understand those electronics and whatever the gates thing and how to manufacture and engineer that. So back to Amit, your question, you are doing all the right things. You're getting yourself equipped and ready for what is to come, but you need to find what is your strength and how can you then translate that to the ecosystem. And networking is the best way to do that, on how you will reach to those then opportunities. But there's opportunity for everyone in quantum ecosystem, I would say.
Yeah, Abhishek, that was a wonderful answer actually. So I just wanted to add like few points on that. So in terms of like software development, as Abhishek mentioned, like we need people from every background right now, because consider like if researchers develop a product, how that product will be reaching to the market. We are the software developers. We will be bringing the product to the market, and that's what like all software engineering are working. There's a lot of quantum things and everything that is still in the research labs. We as a software developer, we need to bring that products into the market, and that's where like software developers will come into picture.
Yeah. And even one person, he's here right now in the call, Anurag Kulkarni from BosonQ Psi. He's somebody who comes from a very hardcore software background. He's amazing at what he does, but he's also, because of his technicals, he's translating into what are the applications he can be working on quantum. And I really like envy such people who can really think and be passionate. And if you guys are joining this call, I'm pretty sure you guys are passionate about the technology. You just need to find your niche. And bit of patience, and because things will happen. There's a lot of things happening at the top level. It should translate to the ground level also soon. I think so. There's multiple questions, Sanjay, which are coming.
I think
Anand,
we can take Anand Mohan's question.
yeah, I don't have a background in physics. I've been learning quantum physics since like using various means for, what would you if such kind of organization? So Anand, if I may ask you, you can type in chat or you can unmute. What is your background? Like what background you come from?
Actually, I've been working for the past 5 years as a software engineer in Accenture.
Okay. Oh, okay. Accenture. So Accenture is doing a lot of good work actually.
Yeah.
In different application areas. Again, people who are able to understand applications, I would say, meaning a very simple example. If I give logistic management, somebody who is expert in that. And when I say expert, it means understanding the mathematics behind such things and how then you can translate to, quantum. One thing I will also tell you, Anand, and through Anand to all of you, that the world of quantum is going to change pretty soon. And again, Sanjay, please attest to what I'm going to say. You are not going to be talking about qubits and gates for too long. You will have mature computing in sense paradigm where you will be doing C++ or Python or maybe Q# and whatever the quantum language is going to be. But we are going to talk at that level in next maybe 2 to 3 years. There's lots of good work going on in the middleware side of things. So you don't need to know everything about how gate works, how you do superpose, entangle, and how you manipulate. Things will evolve very quickly and you just have to be equipped. And I will say there are tons and tons of tools which are coming out. Just to name a few, just because I've seen those, I will say Classic, for example. Then you have Horizon Quantum Computing doing some amazing work, and such middleware companies. There are a lot of good tools that are coming out. If you equip yourself for that, you will be in the business for long, I would say.
Okay, so one more thing, just to add, like you are saying in next 2-3 years, and I was planning to break into this field this year. So is my kind of skills, like I am learning right now using Qiskit. Okay, so is that will that be sufficient to break in this year, or do I have to patiently wait for some years to break in
You
this?
don't have to patiently wait. You just have to somehow get to the tools. I'm saying the field will mature in 2 to 3 years. Like we will not be talking about gates and qubits after certain point of time. But the opportunities are there. Open source tools are out there as well, which are doing similar thing. Error correction is another place, where you are now going more away from physics, but more to like code and things like that. So if you start equipping yourself beyond Qiskit is amazing. Qiskit is no doubt what it has been transforming, I would say. But I would say learn something other than Qiskit. Like I said, there are tons of tools coming out. If you get the license, of some of the other work, Classic, for example, has partnered with Microsoft, I think, and they are trying to democratize these kind of things. Equip yourself for this. Even for BosonQ Psi, you will become a target, somebody who would like to get into a team.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just
Hello, Abhishek. I had a question, a general question. So I wanted to know that BosonQ Psi is working on multiphysics simulation. So how are you going to go on par with the multiphysics giants like ANSYS, Dassault, and Autodesk, and people who are already working in their market rivals or already working on multiphysics simulation? How are you going to on the same platform with them? Like, what is your objective and plan for the future?
That's a fantastic. Thank you, Abdullah. Usually investors ask me that question, but sure, I'm happy to answer that. The whole simulation world is divided into 2 phases. You have early simulation and then you have late simulation. So early simulation is, imagine you have 100,000 prototypes of a product and you want to bring that to 10,000. And then, so in that realm, the classical simulation softwares, ANSYS, Dassault, Siemens, and all of these are perfect, for these ones. They are perfect in what accuracy they can provide, and they are perfect in the time it requires to get that kind of accuracy. But the problem comes when you are in the phase 2, when you are going from 10,000 products to like top 3 or top. That's where you need the sophistication, you need that accuracy. And when you go for that accuracy, it takes just humongous amount of time to do those simulations. So there's nothing out there commercially available which can solve those sophisticated problems, and that's where BosonQ Psi sits. So we are actually complementary to all of these big players, and we are working. Not right now, there's no such official partnership, but we are working in tandem, and that's the mindset that we want to break. I will give another perspective that if you look at the simulation world, going from aerospace to biosciences to anything, there's only 30% of the problems that you can solve, and that's the problems that phase 1 I'm talking about. And 70% of the problems that exist are in that phase 2. It is when you don't solve that phase 2 or don't solve that very well, that's where you have the big recall issues. If you guys remember, the most famous one, if I talk about it, is the Samsung Note phone that kept bursting. That shouldn't be happening. If you do things perfectly, if you do your simulations and your testing perfectly, it should not be happening. Another example is last year in India, and even somewhere across the globe, but more so in India, there were two-wheelers which kept bursting because of thermal runaway problem. That's a massive problem. It should not be happening. I'm seeing a lot of videos also in LinkedIn these days of that happening. Again, it's a simulation problem that can very well be solved. It's just that people don't do that simulation because it just takes so much time, and because they're avoiding those kind of simulation, such things arise. So that's where BosonQ Psi is trying to make a difference.
Okay, on that note, can you like give a basic idea of how many years it would take for BosonQ to like make a difference really? Like, because currently we live in NIST era and like quantum computers are obviously not able to beat classical ones at the moment at least. So like a ballpark of any idea about how many years or what's the timeline like?
So I would say nothing more than 0 to 1 years. And I'm not trying to break any physics, nor I'm trying to break any physics phenomena. It's just that BosonQ Psi has taken two parallel approaches. One is we are targeting near term with something called as quantum inspired approaches. And number 2 is the hybrid quantum classical approaches for NIST era. The second one, the NIST era ones, will mature in 3 to 5 years based on what we need. And again, what BosonQ Psi needs versus what different applications need could be different, but we believe we need about 50, let's say, logical qubits. If we get there, we should be good, and we should be achieving that in 3 to 5 years. But in the near term is where we are giving the value today to our customers. And that means with quantum inspired approach, nothing new. I'm saying here something that already Toshiba, Fujitsu, and all of these players are already doing. It's just that we make our own algorithms, and that those are running on quantum simulators. Simulators are powered by HPC, and that's how we are giving the value. To the industries where we work, if I show them today 1000x that quantum will give, they will think of it as a black magic and discard me right in the 5 minutes of my conversation. These industries work where you show incremental improvement, and that's how you enter. And the industries I'm talking about are automotive, aerospace. Pharma could be more disruptive, but automotive, aerospace is where we are targeting, I would say.
Okay, thanks. Sounds awesome.
I think Abhishek, we can take Ganesh question. So
Yeah.
he's talking about I'm good at technical stuff, but not at managing and strategic planning. What all skills should I acquire to build and run a startup and scale it successfully like BosonQ Psi, and which has 3 offices and locations in the world? Are there any resources where I can learn all this? How was your experience during the early stage of BosonQ Psi?
Fantastic. Thank you, Ganesh, for asking that wonderful question. So I will tell you, amongst my co-founders, I'm the least experienced when it comes to industry. I've spent all my life in academia, but I just innately have the CEO skills, you can say, or managerial and strategic planning. And I cannot say, I don't have a very scientific answer for you why that is or something. The best I can say is everybody in my family and my background is business, so maybe that's why. But I have nothing to do from that point of view, because I've never contributed in that regards anyway. I always wanted to have a PhD in computational fluid dynamics. That's my dream. But so is, BosonQ Psi and being a CEO, that it just comes naturally. But that being said, keeping all of that aside, it's not a switch that on day one I started and I knew, okay, this is how I need to be a CEO. This has been a tremendous learning journey for me, tremendous when I say, and it was not possible because of the kind of people I've worked with, right from the early members who came in at BQP to then advisors. Then came a much larger team of more experienced folks who bring in different skill set, learning from them, mapping out one step at a time. And then also came then a whole different ball game of VC backed funding, investors. Now I'm just into the groove, but still today I learn a lot on how to improve my skill set, because every day we are growing, there's a new challenge in front of us that we need to equip ourselves. So again, like I said, it's not a switch, but it's a journey that you take, and it's a wonderful journey. For some people, you will love it. For me, how much ever it pushes me, and it's a saying in entrepreneurship or just corporate world that, and it's more so in entrepreneurship, that at one place I will be talking to you guys, another place I will be doing all CEO stuff and all of that, and in other places I'm going fixing fires or plumbing my own toilet, meaning that I'm taking care of very minute things at the startup. So again, you can always acquire skills, because skills are meant to be acquired, but attitude is what, and the mindset is really the game-changing piece. And I will highly encourage people, and something that I really genuinely advocate, we want to see more entrepreneurs in quantum, or more entrepreneurs from India, from elsewhere, coming into the quantum ecosystem. This industry needs disruption by young folks. It has, and I keep sitting on the table with people who have seen the HPC era, and they are bringing their skills, and the experience is superbly needed, but so is the dynamism of young folks needed. So I will highly encourage, Ganesh, if you want to pursue that. I cannot give you any rosy picture, but I will tell you that it's a path worth going towards if you're really passionate about it, and if you have that mindset. Everything will figure out. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I know how will I be able to achieve if I don't know anything. So that mindset is what you just need to have. And another thing you have is, are there any resources where I can learn all this? I mean, for me, I consider this as a mini MBA or MBA of some sort, because that's what they teach in class. At least people tell me. I don't know, and I don't have plans right now to go into that route. But yes, I think so. Advisors are the great resource, because they have experience. They can teach you. Experienced people in your team is very valuable, and just having that like attitude of learning, you can learn from even an intern in the company. I do that. There's something they do wonderful. I go and sit with them and talk to them, and it just makes me very happy. And how was your experience? Okay, so that I've already answered. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Myself, I'm currently a cybersecurity professional, and I feel like I can bring a lot to this community in the upcoming years.
You
Seeing the
definitely
growth of
can, Ganesh.
yes,
You
yes. So
definitely
that's what made me ask this question. Thank you so much, Abhishek.
can.
We can take Yash question. He was asking about how effective is computer vision in quantum, and how can one start working on projects?
So computer vision is a area that I'm just on a high level familiar with, but I can tell like there are, see, for me everything translates to mathematics. Computer vision is manipulation of that mathematics at an underneath level. And this was a conversation that happened, I think so 2 years ago, with somebody I know. It's a friend of mine who comes from computer vision background, and he was telling me about some concepts of the mathematics that computer vision use, which is very much equipped to make a difference in the quantum computing realm, especially to do with QFTs and phase estimation. And there's another term that I'm forgetting, but in this path, yes, there is a possibility. It can be reversal also, that quantum can affect computer vision field as well. Again, it's really about how you think about the mathematics in that regard. And how can one start working on projects? I'm pretty sure you will be able to find research papers out there. And I genuinely feel communities like Quantumgrad could be very helpful in this regards. Sanjay, if you want to chime in into this one.
Yeah. So regarding this question, how computer vision will be effective? So think about any problem, like irrespective of computer vision, right? Leave computer vision for one side. So take any field, be it computer vision, be it NLP or something. You need to think about like how you can. So right now, what we are doing, we are giving images. We are giving images to a computer, and just 1 second. So think about like in computer vision, you are giving images to the classical computer, right? So you're feeding something to the classical computer. So in quantum computer, irrespective of anything, you need to think about how you will be like inputting your thing to the quantum computer. So you need to think about like encoding to the problem to quantum computer. Then quantum computer will do the computation, and then you have to think about like how you'll be decoding the problem. So computer vision will be also like a problem like this only. You need to think about like how you'll be encoding the problem, and then how you'll be decoding, and how you'll be running on quantum computer. So everything is in like very early stage, and you just have to like experiment a lot of things. Yeah.
There's another point on the question that Abdullah, I think, so mentioned, which is an area that I'm familiar with. I can quickly take that up as well. So he said adaptive mesh refinement in CFD, how can it be used to improve simulation accuracy? Okay, I'm happy to talk, Abdullah, separately, also offline, also with you on that. But adaptive mesh refinement is part of the CFD 2030 vision. So it's very much needed. I can go into the details. I have worked on that method before. It's a very powerful method and much needed for doing large scale simulations. I see Bernie's question. Hello, I wonder what is the gender diversity like in the field of if your experience very less, I think so you mentioned, you are right. So what you mentioned, 2%, very much true. There's communities, I think so, women in quantum, which are trying to change that. There's a lot of great folks, I would say, females, who are making a difference at an entrepreneur level as well, and also at CXO level, but that those are few and scattered. So I genuinely think that's a problem that we all as a ecosystem have to solve. One thing that I will say is I have met lots and lots of women, but in academia. Again, not saying academia is any way good, but in academia as in quantum folks who are working in like research institutes, universities. And my encouragement to all those, irrespective of women or men, is please come out of your labs. World needs you, world needs your skill, and they need it now. So that's my urge. I've been, like others, I've been in software engineer for 7 years and hoping to make a transition. But it's quite like to work in a more diverse than I'm used to, but it sounds like it might actually be worse. No, again, our company is relatively small, and we have, again, very few women. We always have tried to recruit more, but that's something that we are changing and has changed in the past, I would say, 3 to 6 months. But I genuinely think so that diversity is a much needed factor, not just because of whatever the policy things, but also the perspective. That sometimes you need that perspective, you need that skill set, which is something that each gender can provide a lot of value in. But I will say, Bernie, to you, one thing is, you take the step forward, maybe others will follow you. Somebody has to start, I would say, and then only things will change. And there's a lot happening across the globe. And I've heard, the things that are happening also to promote women in entrepreneurship, very critical, I think so, in that regards. And I will just encourage more and more people, to come in this. It has to change. That number cannot be 2%. I mean, I'm not denying that it's not 2%, but that number has to change. It cannot be 2%. It has to change. I hope that answers your question, Brittany.
Yeah, I think that was insightful answer. Like everyone need to start. Like we will know like some point like this is not happening, this is not happening. But yeah, at some point someone has to start. So it's a great point made here.
Are you planning to partner with QBridge since Kanav and you are from the same domain? It's very much possible. You might hear that news. I'm actually going to, like, we have interacted, and we are also going to be at another session in University of Maryland, maybe later in next week, actually, yeah. So we might talk, just meeting and talking to people has led to BosonQ Psi having so many partnerships, including IBM and others. And also, just to give you an entrepreneur insight on partnership, you always have to look for that win-win. There are a lot of things that we want to do, but it's a function of being at the right place at the right time, both parties needing the same thing, and that's not an easy one, which is why. And even if we all agree and everything, that sometimes the paperwork is just so massive, the rules regulations are so massive, and things can easily fall into any place. To make any partnership work, it's a lot of time, effort, and mental space that is needed to make it possible. Just to give you a sense, for IBM, the news came in like a month ago or something. The partnership was finalized in December. We signed the papers in December. It took us 3 months to get that news out, and 1.5 years for us to get that paper signed. They evaluated us on everything for 1.5 years. So, partnerships are a challenging area, but we are making it possible as we are going along wherever it makes sense. That's just an entrepreneur flavor I wanted to give. Saurabh, can quantum computing application be extended to computational like computer, as that's my field? Of course, I think so. Computational chemistry is the go-to application for quantum. I don't think so ever, quantum physics people ever thought about CFD being an application. It wouldn't even dare, not even dreamed. I can bet on that. But computational chemistry is very much, the area, and it has a lot of industrial applications as well, I would say, right from what we keep hearing about drug discovery, new material, and a lot more. And I think so, Sanjay, if you want to add something onto that.
Yeah, I think this is one of the field like a lot of people are working on, and of course, like there is right now quantum computing has application in everything, be it computational chemistry or be it computer vision, everything right now. It just people from their background need to come and they need to solve the problem like that they are facing. So we need people from computational chemistry to come up with and their problem and how quantum experts can club into it and make the solution out. So yes, it will be extended 100%. I know a lot of people are working on that.
And even from not just something which will monetize also, but something that people are betting on, because that's an important critical area from a national level point of view. Very good example being pandemic itself. How quickly can you come up with that solution, or maybe avoid the pandemic at all costs? So definitely an area of interest.
Yeah, there's like drug discovery. There's a lot of things going on, and
Yeah.
like a lot of people are
Thanks a
working.
lot. Yeah, great. Because right now I'm also working on similar type of problem. I'm working basically on how to reduce carbon from the nature, CO2, computationally. But I was thinking to find some other way, which was I have known DFT from quite a long time. But I was thinking if we could, get the quantum part in it, because I am right now working on quantum, but it's not a directly quantum computation. Maybe you know about DFT, maybe no, but it's not a direct extension of quantum, but it somewhat uses it. But so we get an approx idea of it. So I was thinking if there is a way to directly have quantum computing to solve mostly, though it will take less time also, I guess.
Sort of one thing I will, and this is again through sort of to all the folks, we talk about quantum a lot and it's needed and everything. But I will tell you one reality of this as well, which is to the people who will give you money at the end of the day, which is customer. And customers, there's nothing more important in any business than customers. They're the most important. So customers, for example, for us as well, and that's true for anyone, you are doing this with a quantum, you are applying DFT, or you're applying variational, you're applying high performance computing, you're applying CPU, until unless you don't give them the value, they are not going to talk to you, or they won't, indulge with you. They don't care about what's there in the backend. So we need to always think, and this is something that I really want to urge the community, this mindset is very critical, that what value can you provide? Today it's quantum, maybe 5 years from now, maybe we will be talking about neuromorphic. I don't know, I'm just randomly just saying that example. And we can do all good scientific work and we can publish papers and we can talk about quantum supremacy. But at the end of the day, if you are going to make a difference in this world, you are selling it to somebody. It could be government, it could be a non-profit, it could be anyone. And you have to sell the value, not the technology. You have to sell the value of the technology to them. So just keep that in mind, because if you're doing something with DFT on carbon capture, a lot of people would like to see the value of that. That's more important.
Yeah, thanks.
Is next question Maja or Maha? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. What are your thoughts on what we need to focus on learning quantum error correction or variational algorithm or quantum sensing or something else? My personal view, I think so people need to now start focusing on error correction. We don't need to reach fault tolerant to see value, but we do need error correction to see value from quantum computing. So that's an area of interest. Variational, I think so that's an area that is developing, evolving. I've personally worked on it and I've not seen any major breakthroughs happening. More from mathematical point of view, not something that I've seen in the past 1 year or so, something that I've seen, oh, this is outstanding. It's something, an area definitely we need to work upon and will give us near-term value. But I think so these two are correlated in some sense. Even if you bring a great variational algorithm, I think so you do need a good error correction to make some value out of it in near term. The good part in variational algorithm is now there are systems. So from a commerce point of view, this is much more mature, like what it was 2 years or 1.5, 2 years back. So, the pricing that they have manipulated, how it will work out. A lot of people are now working on hybrid. Now they have finally understood the need that not just your quantum, like your algorithm needs to be hybrid, even your hardware needs to be hybrid. And that's something that I always had problem with, because as I gave my example of CPU, GPU, I know that's going to always be a bottleneck, the hardware, even if you bring the best algorithm. So those are some of the exciting areas in variational. Quantum sensing, I mean, yes, people are doing a lot of work on that. I'm not the best person to comment on quantum sensing or even quantum communication, cryptography, but these are critical areas, even atomic clocks. One thing that I would say, which is in line of what I've said earlier as well, the value chain or the ecosystem in quantum is much more broader than quantum computing. There's a lot of different things possible. I will give you a good example of Cold Quanta, which you guys might think is a startup. It's not. It's a company that has been there for a while, and they were doing atomic clocks and sensing and lasers, cryogenics, which made even quantum computing possible, quantum computers possible. So there's a large variety of areas that you can be looking. It's just that you interested in that, and something that I think so more and more people need to have awareness about. It's again a very, since it's not a very fancy field, You cannot say, oh, quantum supremacy and all of that. So people kind of don't know about that, but that's also an area of value. Abdullah, again, a good question. I can get nerdy on implicit methods in CFD, and when I choose you one over, especially in quantum, I guess it's important from my PM perspective. I can talk separately on that, but just to give you a high level, it's early days to say whether explicit or implicit method would make a difference with quantum. Maybe let's say variational approaches, but something that will require an extensive effort, which is what BosonQ Psi is putting in. Not just explicit, implicit, but also there are a lot of nuances to CFD, from time stepping to other things. But a very good question, and then again, happy to talk about that separately. Shravani, thanks for your response. I've been in corporate as a full stack developer for 3 years and shifted to quantum theory for my master's. So this makes me feel encouraged to be even more alien, not feel like Jack of all trades. Yes, definitely, and I think so. World is also changing in terms of that. And again, Sanjay, you might know this more than I do, that a lot of the universities across the globe are now having some kind of formal education in quantum, and that's going to help people. But I know people run for degrees in quantum, but I always think of quantum as a specialization. I don't think so. There is like, I always like to put myself into the situation and think about it. What will I learn if I'm in a quantum program? I will learn maybe linear algebra. I will learn Fourier transform. I mean, I will learn most of the mathematics portion, the linear algebra portion, maybe a bit of physics if I'm interested, to equip myself. But unless and until you don't belong from quantum hardware, you don't need to get more in depth into that. So I always think of a specialization as a trade. You can say what like a trade school is much better than a full degree in quantum. Quantum is a mix, like quantum computing or quantum is science is a mix of mathematics and physics and maybe a bit of engineering, I would say. But in my true sense, if anybody wants to break in quantum, I think so. Like I said, there are a lot of other areas to do, and please don't get discouraged about what I'm going to say. But I think so mathematics is the most important skill. Everything apart from that can be learned and can be taken for granted a little bit. Maybe some scientists won't like what I'm saying, but I think so mathematics is the most important area for people. But good, Sonia, and I hope what you are doing, you will also make difference in the ecosystem.
Yeah, and there's a lot of master's program that has been come up recently. So there's a lot of university like University of Southern California, University of California, Los Angeles. Then yesterday, I think San Jose University announced their master program in quantum computing. So there's a lot of universities who are coming up, and I'm hoping like they will be at least igniting the motivation among the people, because we are lacking quantum workforce, and I hope they will be able to resolve. And there is like no doubt mathematics is the base of quantum computing. If you don't know mathematics, it's super difficult to understand quantum computing. You need to have mathematics. There is no way. So yeah, we can take Ramesh's question.
Yeah, Ramesh. So quantum computing, hype versus reality. What is your opinion? Nowadays, I see a lot of activities and movement, and same times a lot of hopes from the field of performance. When do you? Okay, I will answer the first part of the question. I mean, I'm going to give an answer that anybody would give. There is hype, and some good hype that is needed, because, and then it's very confusing. It's a very confusing area. So I would like to shine some light on that. Why hype is good and bad. Bad from when hype gets to a level where you are making bold claims with no meat on it, that's bad. That's always bad for any ecosystem. But one thing that I think so some hype is needed is because somebody needs to, you like it or not, somebody needs to pay for it, right? That if I want to do a scientific work, and let's say I'm a PhD, I need a funded, PhD position. For that, the professor needs funding. For professor needs funding. If you say, okay, things are coming in 15 years, who's going to put their money? People don't even know about their tomorrow. Now, again, I'm not trying to encourage hype. I'm just saying the purpose of why some things are made to say in a fashion that they are said is because the world needs to run in a fashion. If Elon Musk, when he came in, and I don't know if what's the sentiment of this community towards the person, but when he came in, if he didn't make the bold claims, he wouldn't be having those resources to make what he's making it possible today. So hype and a little bit of marketing and salesy is needed at the top level. It's not for the people at the ground level, middle level, or bottom level. They need to be realistic, and that's when mixing of that is happening. That's where the bad things are happening. So hype, maybe a little bit is needed, but not the one that people have created. Another thing that I will tell you is, we are talking a lot about quantum because it's exciting, and the challenge with quantum is not a lot of people understand that. But if you and I'm thinking that most of you guys are at similar age or in the age range of where I am. But if you go back to the past generation who have seen the advent of high performance computing, how today we are talking about ion traps versus superconducting versus this neutral atom versus whatever that is. People were in 1980s, I think, so where they were talking about CMOS, DMOS, EMOS, MMOS, whatever that is. Do I even care what's there in my mobile today? Like, I don't even know. Until I'm not a mobile nerd, I won't even know what the heck is in there. So these things, over the time will mature. As I mentioned, we will be not entirely stopping, but we will not be, the major population will not be working with kids. Similarly, all these things will mature, collapse. There might be multimodal capability that an ion trap with superconducting might be needed. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of hope. And one of that thing that people, always get messed up about, and which is not helping the ecosystem, is that some companies, let's say, are doing ion trap. They have a different challenge. Their challenge might be more engineering than science, because the science might be figured out. Maybe the engineering has not been figured out. For that, the timeline of solving that, for getting into, let's say, even fault tolerant or even outside of miscarriage or error correction, might be much different from versus a neutral atom, where the engineering is easy, but the science has still to be figured out. And they might be saying that, okay, we might be providing you value in 10 years versus superconducting, where a lot of the science and engineering are done. That's why, superconducting is so fast paced moving. But we cannot confuse this then that somebody is saying 2 years, but somebody is saying like 15 years. We are talking about each model or type of quantum computer having a different challenge. And the challenge could be as simple as workforce, people, not enough workforce to understand that. And that might be delaying the timeline by a couple of years. So let's not confuse this. And because when we make this picture that somebody says a 15 year, somebody says a 3 year, 5 year, whatever, it takes off the credibility for people outside of this ecosystem, because they get confused that what is the reality. So, and this is not my urge, this is something that, I've talked with leaders, and together, I think so at some point of time, there has to be a unanimous thought process that, okay, that it is for this model, because of this, it will be this much, and for this model, it will be because of this challenge, it will be these many years. But we are going to see the maturity in the technology. I see so much rapid pace, so much development happening in this field. Is just ever evolving, hard to keep up sometimes, which is a great thing. So we will be able to crack, a lot of the things that people will not think about. And I don't need to even go further. Generative AI is that example. We were not giving even 2 cents to it until a breakthrough happened, but the breakthrough already happened. We think breakthrough happened because commercially that breakthrough happened. So just to give you a perspective, and commercial application perspective, when do you think it will pick up? And the majority of companies are working in research. Yes, it's early phases and it's no bad thing. Let's not treat research as a negative thing. Everything starts from something. Even as us as humans always have to, we start from baby, we grow and then we mature and then we take the responsibilities. Every science, everything that you use from your mobile phones, we think it's ready, but mobiles were not mobile phones until until a lot of years ago. Zoom was not a thing until years ago. So everything takes its own course of action. That's how technology works. We just have to be on it and make it move forward rather than making it move backward. And we can all do so in the positive way. When I look at job opportunity right now, it's very less. So my question is, practically possible to get jobs right now if I have the skill set? It's tricky. There are job openings, like I said, there are opportunities. It might be few and scattered. And again, these are startup companies, so they might not have a very developed job board. So sometimes it's good for you to connect with folks and see if they have a position with your matching skill. But why I say tricky? Because the global economy is in a very bad state and it's only going to go worse from here. At least that's what I'm not an economist, but I gather a lot of hope because as an entrepreneur, I have to. The macroeconomics is going to get tougher, and so will be the job market. Why? Because not a lot of companies, quantum or not quantum, will like to conserve the resources, and job market is just going to get tougher. That might be the reason for things not looking good from a job perspective. But irrespective, if you talk to the companies, there are lots and lots of companies. They might be looking for good talent. You just maybe have to check with them and ask them. Abdullah, a lot of and just so Sanjay, if it is okay, last few questions, because
I think it's the last few questions we'll wrap up. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people solid community, and I guess I have noted that there are a lot of things we can work on in the applause. We can target that. I'm not sure that's a question or comment, so I will skip that. I remember 2 years back when Quantum Winter Hackathon. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. Thank you, Abdullah. Great to hear that, and that's how I remember that I know your name. But yes, we might be conducting soon. Now we have great communities like Quantumgrad, who will take the responsibility. But for sure, BQP will be supporting a lot of those efforts moving forward. All in all, I think so that's it for the question.
Yeah.
Wonderful questions asked. I really like the enthusiasm of the community, and I hope I was able to provide some value to you all.
But there is like last one question from my side.
Yes, please.
There's one last question. Like there's always like people are looking for tips and techniques, like how to break into quantum computing. So if there is last minute advice that you want to give to, like if I'm coming new to the field, like what advice you will give, like how to break into this field, or any advice from your point of view, like from your year of experience? That's my last question.
Move fast, I would say. Why fast? Because mathematics, as I said, is critical. You learn the basics, you get to tools which are very developed, like Qiskit and many others, Penny Lane and all sorts of things. But then quickly move to a tool which is an upcoming tool. It could be something on quantum error correction from QSoft, I think so, and other communities. There's Classic, there's Horizon Quantum, there's many such tools which are up and coming, and we as companies sometimes require those skill sets of people who know that, because we don't have time to learn everything ourselves or our teams to learn everything. So if you're equipped with that, if you're equipped with, let's say, with Amazon Bracket, or if you're equipped with something else, great, do that. I think so that will be very helpful for cracking into companies like BosonQ Psi, I would say. Mathematics, moving fast, and just being open-minded about the field, you can add value in very different ways that you wouldn't have imagined. So I wish all of you all the best. And again, thank you so much, Sanjay, for inviting me and having me. And I really like what the community is doing. And please go, if you haven't signed up, please sign up to the community. And also all the best. And again, happy Quantum Day.
Yeah, and thank you, Abhishek, for a wonderful time. It was indeed nice talking to you, and I hope like committee members will have a lot of valuable insight from you. And yeah, I think happy Quantum Day to all, and see you all soon again. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.